What's going on, Muscle Monsters? Elian Gonzalez here, and today I want to tell you kind of a personal story, but there's a meaning behind it, or I guess a message that I want to convey. And so when I was in middle school, I had this friend named Emmanuel, and at the time he was probably one of my best friends. Okay, he used to come over after school. On the weekends, he would stay the night. Sometimes I would go to his house and stay the night. We would film ourselves breakdancing, and he was super passionate about breakdancing. I was too, I guess, at the time. But even later on in life, he still was really passionate about it. Anyway, after middle school, though, he had to go to a different high school than I did. And at the time, there was really no Facebook. There was it wasn't the norm for people to have cell phones, and it was a lot harder to stay in touch. All right, so we lost touch. Throughout high school, obviously, because he was such a good friend, I always kind of awaited the day that we bumped heads again, so that we could catch up and kind of reconnect. Unfortunately, that never happened. Later on, obviously, we got older, and it still would cross my mind every couple months, like, I wonder what he's up to, how he's been. And occasionally I would try to look his name up through Facebook or through Instagram, to no avail. Never found him. And so we had another mutual friend who's actually still one of my best friends to this day. And he is kind of still in that scene where Emmanuel might be found, because he was super passionate about breakdancing in the scene that my buddy's in. There's a lot of breakdancers, and at least I thought that at least someone would know of him. And so I decided to text that friend one day and just say, hey, let me ask you a question. Have you heard anything or seen Emmanuel or anyone that knows of him? And that day he told me that he did actually bump into someone who knew Emmanuel, and that he had passed away. All right. And it was kind of gut-wrenching to hear, because I never actually got to see him again and kind of just share in the joy of what was happening in my life and wanting to share in what was happening in his life. So the other day, this was probably a year after hearing of his passing, I had a dream where he was in it, and we were catching up, and we were super excited to have finally seen each other again. And I was in that point in the dream where you're kind of still dreaming, but you're almost transitioning to being awake, so you're kind of aware that it is a dream. And it hit me in that moment that I was never gonna experience that, right? Because he had passed away. The main message is simple, all right? We all have goals, things that we want to achieve, but more importantly, there are typically people in our lives who we want to share that moment with, right? The moment we win a championship, or the moment we achieve a certain goal, or the moment that, certain things happen in our lives, maybe a wedding, maybe our first child, whatever it is, there's certain people that we want to share in the moment. And a lot of the time, I don't think that we wake up every day chasing our dreams or our goals or ambitions with the kind of haste that I think we should, because time is limited, right? I mean, how much would it suck to finally get to where you are working so hard to get, but the most important person that you want around to see it isn't there. Some of you guys are watching this that maybe lost your parents or maybe a parent, and it's shitty, but this should be just a bigger reminder that time is limited and we have to do the most with the time that we have here. The next day, tomorrow, whatever, you can be gone. Your loved ones, they can be gone. It's scary to think about, but once you can come to terms with that fact, it will light a fire under your ass. All right? Because again, the biggest fear that you should have, at least the biggest fear I have, is finally getting to the places where I promised my wife and kids and mother and brother that I was going to get, and one of them not be there to share in that moment with me. Maybe it seems selfish. I don't know. But that's my biggest fear, and that's one of my biggest motivators, right? There's nothing more motivating than knowing that there's a slight possibility that you might have to reach whatever it is you're trying to reach and find yourself there alone or without someone very special to you present, right? Some of you guys might have the dream or the goal of maybe one day buying your mom a house. But if you don't hustle and bust your ass every single day, it gets closer to the day where that's not going to be a possibility. And that, my friends, should be enough motivation for you to get up every day, chase your dreams, get after it, hustle hard, work hard, and just make shit happen.